life of love, life of love, with Joy Hilson.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Life of Love, where we gather every week to explore curiosity, love, the way we can show up in the world with our highest good for ourselves and everyone, our families, our relationships. And I'm just so delighted to have everyone join us again, and anyone who can share these messages for your loved ones, humanity. It's my mission to just bring light and inspiration and hope. And so I'm very picky about my guests. And so I'm really excited to introduce Laura Giles to the show this week. She has spent over 20 years in the space of healing trauma, bringing forth people's highest good, helping them get over things that were challenges and often things that when you overcome, you make your world a better place. I'm just so delighted because it's such an alignment with what I'm about. She's worked in maximum security prisons, psychiatric hospitals, in the court system, and she also has a private practice and an awesome website. So I'm just really excited to pick her brain today. Laura, thanks for being on Life of Love.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Oh, of course. So I just want to get right into it because you're up to so many great things, and just spending a little time on your website, I was intrigued. And so my first question was, tell us about your sanctuary and how that came about, because it's not what you don't really see that much. I mean, I talk about creating a container and like we make space for this episode and we put intention into it. But how did you come about your sanctuary? I'm just delighted to pick your brain on that.
I think it happened kind of organically, and it's something that's always been a part of my life because I grew up in a really warm and safe family, and my moon's in Cancer. I think that has a lot to do with it. So family is really important to me, that space where you feel like yourself and you can let down your guard, laugh, joke and share your light with the world. And so when I left my family, what I found was that I started creating that everywhere I went, which was so strange because I'm super shy, not that person to go out and start talking to people and making the space a home, but I've always done that. And I was really curious about, what am I doing? This is so bizarre. And so I didn't know that I was doing it until much later. But I also began doing sacred travel. That was also a happy accident. I just went for the first time, was totally amazed, and I said, oh my God, I have to share this with people. And they had the same experiences that I did. And at first I thought it was just, well, these places are so amazing. And then again, what I realized later was, no, it's that sanctuary, that safe place that allows it to be amazing because people's hearts can open. And so once it became conscious, then I said, okay, let's do this intentionally. And I set out to create that, so that, because I work in trauma, I think it's really important for everyone, especially people who have been traumatized, to have a place like that where they can just settle in, be themselves, let that light shine, and live with a sense of aliveness.
I love that. There's so much to unpack there. So tell me, sacred travel is it going to places that have been historically sacred, like Tulum or the pyramids, or can you expand on what that was? And then it seems like the intention of the people you travel with also make a big difference. But I'd like to just start with where sacred travel, the idea came up.
Yeah, so initially it was not that at all. I just was working like a slave. I used to own a residential tree service, and it was a hurricane season. It was hurricane after hurricane, and it was nonstop forever. And I just needed a break, and I wanted to go anywhere. It didn't really matter where. And Egypt was one of those places that was very easy to get to. They had packages, all you have to do, everything is done for you. So I went there with no real pull for that. It could have been anywhere. And I was absolutely stunned by how amazing it all is. It was just, the place is alive. You can feel, if you're sensitive, you can feel the modern masculine Islamic energy, and then this old, ancient, feminine, soft, amazing energy from the past. And then when I got to the pyramids, it was like, my God, it was timeless. It was like it was like all the visions in the world just melted, and I was just one with everything, with the pyramids, with the sand, with the people, with the camels, with the universe. So we were there in the middle of the night, which you can't do now because there's a fence. But it was the moon and the mist, and it was just amazing. And that's where I came up with this idea of sacred travel. People have to be here because of this energy and the history. And what I later found was that yes, these places do have energy, and we would travel the ley lines.
That's what I was
So
going to ask
yeah,
you. Yeah.
and the rainbow serpent. So my company was called Rainbow Serpent Adventures, and because those places are really really powerful. But then when I found out, I said everything has magic. Every place has magic, and you have magic that you're bringing to it. So we don't always go to those places now. The last place that we went was Cornwall, which was just a couple weeks ago, and we did a pilgrimage there. And at the very end, that is a magical place. We were on the Mary Michael ley line, but the whole time we were pilgrimaging, it wasn't, but it was.
I love that. I love that. I was just listening to Rory Duff. He's trying to map all the ley lines.
Yeah.
And it's just last week I heard him. Pamela Gregory had him on, and shout out to her. She's amazing. And Rory Duff, I have his book, and I wasn't able to decipher. It was a ley lines book. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look up the ley lines around me. Well, it's like really hard because the way it's written. But I digress. He was saying that there's shadow lines on the ley lines. So they have these main ley lines and like you said, the dragon lines too. And
Yep.
you mentioned the serpent, but he's finding through the dowsing rods, and he has an army of people who are dowsers, that they're finding the lines have shadows where they're expanding. So that's speaking to your point, where it's basically wherever you have the intention, where because things are shifting so much and I don't know if people are following this, but there's solar flares like crazy. Like people, it's tricky right now to be human and feel adjusted on this plane, on this planet, because we're getting energetically infused, and it feels like an assault at times. But I love, Laura, how you're mentioning this divine feminine and bringing in the energies, and then you're talking, and I was thinking about the shape of this pyramid being the shape of a womb. And that came to me, that this feminine womb energy in Egypt. I just want to share that because it just came in really hard when you were talking about this energy. I pictured the pyramids. It's like this is a huge womb of feminine energy, and how magical that is. And so I'm blown away. I'm so glad we're talking about this right now, and that your sacred travel has led you to this awareness, to this epiphany, that it's about you setting it up and taking the space to just quiet your mind and be.
Yeah.
So is it a lot of nature, or is it museums, or you do both, or how does that feed in?
It is a lot of nature. In the beginning, it was more about the sites, the temples, the sacred springs, and being in the energy of that. Or maybe it could even be trees, because they're sacred trees, and kind of sucking it up from there. And because these places are typically remote, you have to walk a ways to get there. So we would always be in nature. And I didn't really think about how powerful that is until kind of recently. And then when we did a pilgrimage, we're outside all day. You're under the sun, you're in the wind, you're in all of it. And because of the resonance of the earth, most people don't get out that much. They're inside with the AC all the time and in the artificial environments. And I think that being outside is so healing in itself, because you are on the earth, you are touching the earth, and you're away from all of this electromagnetic stuff and unhealthy people and unhealthy stimulations. Your phone is never on. So I think just being in nature itself, breathing in the air with the trees, is super healing and very spiritual. So in the pilgrimage, the second half is when we went to the sacred sites, but the first half wasn't any of that at all. And it was equally, or maybe even more, healing and balancing and connecting as the second part.
And then how many people are on these trips and how did they find this type of travel?
It
It doesn't
depends
come up.
on where we go. With some of them, like Egypt and Peru, they're set up for travel. You can take a larger group. But some of them, like Cornwall, they're not. And they have these little teeny tiny roads. And, you can only book lodging for so many people. So they're tiny. The last 2 years, we've done tiny tours because of the places they just can't accommodate that many people. And then there's those also like, do you want to be with a gigantic group on a pilgrimage? I mean, I guess people do. People do it on the Camino all the time. I
Mhm.
don't. I prefer a smaller group. So the maximum size group that I ever take is 16
Nice. My gosh. And how long have you been doing this?
for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So pretty much your whole career this has been part
Yes.
of.
Yes.
And then I wanted to get back when you say you like to create sacred space or a sanctuary around you, how did you start doing that when you left your house? I did want to that came
Uh,
in, as something that I was really curious about how you implemented that and then, you realized it later, but how did it manifest?
so picture this. So I'm working in a corporate environment and this is a business. People are there to do business. But I was like the person on the entertainment committee, so I would be helping with the parties and things like this. And we would do outings that had nothing to do with work. So I'd set something up and be like, hey, let's do this, which is kind of weird. I have my family, I have my friends. I don't need these people. Not at all. It's not like, I need it for social. It's just I think there was a yearning in me to have some connection wherever I am, and we
Mm.
do that socially. You know, um, for the last 10 years or so, I've had a meetup group. Same thing in my community. So I would use my office for healers, anything that has to do with mind, body, spirit. Anybody in the community, come in, share your thing. We'll talk to the community, and everybody gets to know each other. And from that, we formed a group of people who probably don't have anything else in common. And we're very friendly. It's very neighborly. And I just like to have that vibe with me wherever I go. So I've done this forever, not with any real intention to build a community, but I think it's just what my heart needs is to have connection with the people around me. It's the same thing in my neighborhood. I know who my neighbors are. We help each other out. It's that kind of place.
Mm-hmm. That networking and feeling part of the group, that helping
Yes.
out yeah, I agree. I hope my neighbors don't think I'm nosy, but I just care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really
It matters.
a rabbi years and years ago that said that it was Rabbi Green. He's in Colorado now. Amazing man. He said that garage door openers were the downfall of society because when people come in and shut their garage door, you're like shutting off your house to the neighbor, and I always remember that. It's like, that's sort of true. It's
Yeah.
like you come in and shut the door. So it's like we have to have a conscious effort to get to know our neighbors, our community. And
Yeah, it's very
like you
different
said,
from the way that I grew up. When I grew up, all the kids were in the street.
mm-hmm,
You played with everybody. You knew your neighbors. I knew my neighbor. I was in his garden every day. When he came home, I greeted him every day. He was
mm-hmm,
just a part of my life. And I think that when I left my family's house, that was just how I grew up and that's how I wanted to live. And so that's what I've been doing my whole life without any intention or any, like, oh, let me do this because blah, blah, blah. It was just a function of who I am.
mm-hmm. And I do believe there are people who are placed here to show what's possible. And that, if you're feeling this illusion of separation, because it is illusion, we're one of one. You're your individual and we're all together. It's just if you can see yourself as that and know that that is a truth, that it's, any kind of sadness or separation or layers that you can unpeel and be vulnerable, step out of your comfort zone to strike up a conversation.
Yeah.
Neighbors talk about the weather, who cares? Pets or weeds or flowers, it's just the fodder for conversation is nonstop
Yes.
when you have a home or a neighborhood, and that builds your community. And I think it's just wonderful. I mean, that's the biggest thing that makes people feel alone is not well, obviously not feeling connected, but I mean, it's really obvious when you start talking about it, but it's not so obvious when you're feeling alone.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that that came forth for our conversation today. And I wanted to ask you also about, and I don't mean to jump around, but there's so many wheels that I want to cover, so many cogs in the wheel, I guess I want to say, but tell me about the divine feminine archetypes. I want to get back to the Egypt pyramid and maybe weave this in a little bit more, because that is such a huge exclamation mark in our conversation. I'm just like, yeah, tell me about that and what you found and how it's changed your life and your perspective.
Ugh. So I grew up a tomboy, and the feminine anything was not on my radar at all. And oddly, I used to be a bodybuilder, and I had some car accidents, couldn't do that anymore. And so I fell into belly dance, which is another thing that brought me to Egypt.
Yay!
And it's it's
I love belly
incredibly
dancing. Yeah.
yeah, it's incredibly feminine. And because of the way that you move your body, it's a whole body dance. You call it belly dance, but it is a whole body dance. And so you get all of your chakras activated. It's mind, body, spirit. You got the movement, the music, the emotions, everything. It's very holistic. And through that, then I became involved in moon circles. So there's all this feminine stuff happening. And this is energy that I just had really nothing to do with. Never thought about it. It wasn't part of my reality at all. But then all of these experiences just helped to make me so much more whole. And it's like, I don't even know who I was at first without that. How could you be whole without it? Because we all have masculine and feminine. And I think being aware of the archetypes and how they move through the life can help a person enrich their lives and become that wholeness or express, because we're always whole. We just are not aware of it and we don't express it. And so the sacred travel was part of that too, because the land has energy. And then when you visit the masculine energies and the feminine energies, and if you really have a sense of that, it awakens it in you.
I love it. I love it. And it's remembering.
Yes.
It's something that our society's forgotten, but we're getting back with this age of Aquarius, the Capricorn energy. We're getting back to these ideas that the feminine is coming more forward. And it is. It's like the confusion between male and female. Well, we're all everything.
Yeah.
It comes back to the all of one. Okay, so I relate to the tomboy thing. And then, like being a mom was huge. Going through certain transitions in your life, you feel more feminine. There's been space made for, like, when you get married, you feel very feminine, and you have these baby showers, you're receiving. And there are some rituals that we have in our society that highlight our divine feminine, and I really enjoyed those things. And I think being a mother sort of obviously sparks it, but then it's that constant connection to your divine feminine. And so would you like to talk about what the 4 archetypes are, so that people might identify or realize you go in and out of these things?
Yeah, thank you for asking me that question, because I think it's something that a lot of women are aware of and certainly don't think about. But the first one is the maiden. I think we're all familiar with that. That's the girlhood stage. And this is where we belong to our parents. So we're not ourselves yet. We're a product of them. And actually, even before that, when we're in utero, we're part of our mom. Her heartbeat is our heartbeat. Her blood is our blood. Her food is our food. So we're not even separate from her yet. And that's why I think it's real important to get to know this, because the mother is the root. Whether you're a boy or a girl, you are part of your mother first. And so she's so important. Everybody's mother is so important. So we come out as this girl, we're our parents' child, and then puberty hits. And all these hormones are raging. And this is a call for us to blossom into ourselves. And hopefully what happens is we begin to separate from our parents. And some parents are kind of heavy-handed. Don't you dare. This is the life I have mapped out for you. You're going to do this. And then that girl never gets to be herself. But hopefully what happens is that it's an easy-ish transition, and she begins to rebel. She begins to hang out with her friends more and feel who she is, and then begins to blossom into herself. So Parenthood is a thankless task, and I don't think lots of people think about this. I think they think of it as, this is going to enrich me, this is going to make my life so much better, it's going to give me meaning. But you spend all your money and your time pouring into this child who may not like you. They may not
Mhm.
be anything like you. You know, they might want to do some things you don't even understand. And so it's a sacrifice to be a parent. Maybe you get it back, maybe you don't. But I think if you go into it with that, you can support your child in a better way so they can be who they're born to be. Because our kids come through us. They're not, that's it. They just come through us.
Yeah,
And
we
so then,
nurture them, we love them, and it's like having a little bird. And that the symbology of the empty nest. Someone
yeah,
said, "I'm not an empty nester. I'm a bird releaser." Like, sort of, it's your project. It's like,
yeah,
and you give your heart and soul, and they are part of you. Like, I did read that our children share. We have like this DNA bond that doesn't leave. Like, it's more than just the chromosomes. It's like an energetic connection
yes,
that we feel their pain. Like, and it's what a test of unconditional love, because for them to grow, they need to let you down, and you need to
yeah,
re-embrace them.
yeah,
And it's what more divine feminine concept than unconditional love. Okay, so we did maiden, and then this
yep.
next step where you get your own identity is
Yeah, that's the first seductress. So we call it
seductress.
seductress because they're coming into their sexual energy and their sexual being, but it's really more than that. But this is the place where society says, okay, this is what a woman is. You're a
Ah,
sexual creature. So you see all these, everything's about sex, sex sells, that's what we're allowed to be. And if you don't break free and become your own self, then that can be the rest of your life, because that's what society says what you can be. And then after that, it sets you up to be the mother, that nurturer, that caretaker, that creator, because you've had all this other experience. I know who I am, and now I can help you to be who you are. I think women have to have that experience to be healthy mothers.
mhm.
And then after they leave the nest, that's the second seductress phase. So I've done all this, and now I get to be myself again. I get to touch base with, who am I now? Who am I after having had these experiences of nurturing? Because it's a very different person than you were the first time you were the seductress. So I still am sexy. I'm still vital. I still have all this stuff to offer, but I'm not a hands-on mom anymore. And maybe I've done the career thing. I've conquered all. I've done all the things I need to do. And yet there's still all this life in me. What am I going to do now? Who am I going to be now? And that sets us up to be the crone then. So once I'm old, now the energy shifts again. And as the children are coming from the spirit world, I'm heading to the spirit world with all of this wisdom. And I have more touch with the spirit world. So that's assisting me. And I think this is a space of the wholeness, or at least that's what I thought. So we did a initiation into womanhood, and as part of that initiation, we touched all of those archetypes. And what I found is that they're always in us, all the time. It's not like we go through
All of
these
them.
phases. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
all of them. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what just came to me. I'm like, gosh, like you go in and out, and I
yes,
think it's sort of fun to play in the different ones. Like, be the maiden, connect with your inner child, and ask her what she's feeling, because sometimes these feelings, these emotions is sort of rational, but it's coming from somewhere, and you got to get quiet and say, well, what is this really? Okay, I get that. I get that abandonment. I get your,
yeah,
these things that you need to recognize and love it and say, yeah, that's there, but really this is what you're getting right now, and you are supported, and people do care about you, and don't feel like an idiot because you have these feelings, because that's that part of your inner maiden who's reaching out for reassurance that
that's
she
right.
didn't get it. She didn't
Yeah,
get it, and it's okay. Everybody's been let down. No parent's perfect. No child's perfect. We all need grace, right? So,
yeah,
beating yourself up about your vulnerabilities is like, please, I do it. I'll catch myself and I'll be like, this is just so irrational. I'm just so emotional. Am I so, sensitive, because was always a sensitive child. So, and I'll be like, gosh, Julie, you're doing it again. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's my inner child, and she needs a hug, and it's going to be okay. And, and you can see people in the community, their inner childs come out, their inner children come out, and you're like, oh yeah, I see it, because it's like this thing that erupts, and you're like, whoa, that's like a 2-year-old in the grocery store having a fit. And it's like, no, it's their inner child, and everyone has it, and it's okay. Like it's normal. And I do believe these solar flares and all this energetics are making it worse, because we gotta run through it. We gotta run through it. Oh my gosh. So we have the inner maiden, the first seductress, the second seductress, and then the crone, you said that?
And the mother and the crone, yeah.
The mother and the crone, and that's the 4. And so we move in and out, and all of them are precious.
Yes.
All of them are needed.
Yes.
There's not one better than the other.
But I do think it's important to touch all of them, because as I've been looking around and looking for the crone to lead me to the next phase of life and someone to help, there aren't a lot of crones in this world. And I think if you're stuck in that seductress phase where all your value is about sex and beauty, well, we that crone doesn't develop.
And that might be why it's unfulfilling.
Yeah.
I mean, and to me, like, and I've gone through this, I'm like, well, am I living to please everyone else, or am I living for my own joy? And when you're living for a sexual satisfaction, yes, that might be a temporary high, like even like buying like a pair of shoes that you love. But, the joy and the depth of your inner peace and your knowingness that your values and your truth aren't tied to any activity or any other relationship. It's your relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And then you can come to that seductress in a different way when you choose to go there, but you have everything you need, and you remember it all as your mother crone. I want to hold space for that, because I agree with you 100 million times %, is that we are, as a society, there isn't a lot of people holding space for that, for the mother crone.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted to bring that forward.
Yeah. And when you're in the presence of it, it's just awesome. Awesome. And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't have it, is because it's so scary. Like, how can you be in that power unless you're really confident?
Well, you don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't matter. You don't need anyone's validation. You're not judging anybody. You're not judging yourself. In the feminine enlightenment, like we have, I want to say, gosh, I can't even think. My brain today. We have a lot of masculine masters. I'm thinking of Tibetan monks, and I'm thinking of the Indian men who live in the caves. There's just a lot of masculine, like very spiritual, enlightened beings. And I think a lot of feminine sacredness has been tied to our sexuality. And so getting beyond that, it takes owning it. It takes owning it. And it's, all parts of it are beautiful. Wow. To know there's different benchmarks, there's different, not that you have to go, but they're there.
Yeah.
They're there if you want to go there. And it's okay either way. This isn't to put pressure on anybody, right? Like, you want to stay in your maiden, there's a place for that too, right? Like, it's just that this is here.
I think that living fully invites that, though. It's just like the seasons, spring always gives way to summer. And when you're in a space of mindfulness and you're being, you're allowing things to be as they are, it does transition. And everything's there. It does go in and out. It's like the seasons. But I think you will get there if you're just going along with the ride. The flow takes you there.
Your joy will take you, and it might not be easy. I mean, there's roadblocks. Like, to get to anything worthwhile, there's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's good, because it gives it meaning.
And then it gives you the confidence, because you overcome the challenges.
That's right.
And that's how the mother crone. I love that, Laura. Thank you so much. This has been such a delightful conversation, and we're reaching the end of our time, but what would you like? I know your website is amazing. It's Not You, It's Me Sanctuary. I have it up on my screen right now. It's player.lauragiles.org. Yeah, so visit Laura there. She has a lot there. And is there anything else you want to direct anyone who might want to know more about these wonderful sanctuaries you've made? Every little thing you've done is a sanctuary for something beautiful.
Yeah. I guess I would just say for people to find that within themselves so that you can always have it. If you take it with you, then you always have it.
And when you go on a sacred journey or a trip, you decide to take time away, having that intention is the most important thing. That makes it a sanctuary. It doesn't matter, like you said,
Absolutely.
where you go or who you go with. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And don't, this is something that's come to me. We're just coming off of Memorial Day, and there are certain things that are associated with vacation that, and I'm not judging, I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong, but really look at what you're doing, and are you spending your free time nurturing yourself and feeding your soul, or are you feeding into a paradigm of you need to go out and party, or you need to be drinking beer at noon to have a vacation? And what's resonating with you? And like I said, no judgment. I've gone on trips where, that was a thing. But lately I've been taking more time to just nurture, stretch, go for long walks. I like to bring my dog on vacation now because I feel sad to leave her. Question, are you following like a society expectation when you're going vacation? Or are you following what's going to feed your soul? So that's my challenge. And as we're getting into the summer months and people are taking time off, just because it's expected doesn't mean you have to. And, I guess I'm going back to like 3 episodes ago, we talked about, question the drink. And, if you're having alcohol and it makes you feel bad all night and the next day, is that really feeding your soul? Is that really worth what that drink did for that short amount of time that you felt like you escaped? And what are you escaping? Go on vacation not to cloud or dull yourself, but to experience yourself. And is alcohol doing that for you? I just want to put that out there because it's really on my heart. And maybe it's my age, and I just can't process alcohol anymore, and I'm not fun anymore. No, I am fun. I promise you I'm fun. At least I'm fun to myself. But I don't mean to get all serious on vacation. I just want to put it out there that you might have more fun if you follow your way and not just do what's expected or what is going to feed the resorts economy. That's what I'm saying. Thanks for letting me vent about that.
Yeah, I think if people go on a inner journey, then the outer journey will change.
Yes, the intention. I love it. Laura, thank you so much. And anytime you want to be on Life of Love, you come back.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. All the best.
Thank you.